Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. Now, how much gun control will there be? If there will be, hypothetically, if there's a president, Kamala Harris, see, they say her name so many different ways. She says her name so many different ways. Nobody even knows how to say it. Nobody knows how to pronounce it. But if she were to win, how much gun control will there be? Will the Second Amendment be completely gone? I found an interesting article that talked about the whole philosophy of the current former vice president's administration, along with Kamala Harris and Tim Awals. And I wanted to go over that with all of you. But let me ask you guys real quick. Are there any Kamala fans in the house? And a separate question, does anybody think she's going to win? Now, look, winning nowadays can mean so many different things, right? So we'll reword that another way. First of all, the first question is really simple. Are there any Kamala fans in the house? The second way we'll word it is, will she end up in the White House? Whatever process that would entail, however that could possibly happen. Will she be there? And are there any fans? It looks like, as far as the two main contenders, in most states, with RFK still being on the ballot, it's going to come down to Trump versus Kamala. Let me know if there's any Trump fans in the house. Is Trump your guy? Is your guy Ron Paul? Is your guy Kamala? Somebody just said they want Big Mike to run. Jeez. Yeah, that's a little bit more manly than Trump, to be honest. They call her Big Mike of the Barack Hussein Obama administration. Hey, who knows? Look, Kamala right now is supposed to be the Democrat nominee that nobody voted for at all in the primaries. Did not get one primary vote. Heck, when she was running 4 years ago, she couldn't even get to Iowa. And Iowa's like the first state you get to. And she literally couldn't even get to the first state, and she had to drop out. And right now, supposedly, I'm not a Democrat. I think you guys know that by now. If I was a Democrat, I'd be pretty ticked off, though, wouldn't you? Nobody votes for her. Millions and millions of people, tens of millions of people vote for the current former vice president for nominee. Does this remind you of Bernie Sanders? Last two elections, actually, before this. Not a Bernie Sanders fan either, but same thing. Bernie never had a chance. Literally, Bernie never had a chance. But here we are with Kamala Harris. Couldn't even make it to Iowa. Look, think about this. It's the very first state in the election. We're talking 2020, right? It's the first state in the election you go to. She couldn't make it to there. She had to drop out. Then fast forward to 2024. She gets no votes on the Democrat primary whatsoever. And here she is. So that's why I rephrased the way we asked the second question. Because will she end up will her body be in the White House? You know what I'm getting at? Because that's how we have to call it now. I mean, the current former vice president, we call him that for a reason. And let's just say, let's go Brandon for old time's sakes, because this is the most terrible person to occupy the White House that we've ever seen. Like, literally. As bad as Jimmy Carter was, Jimmy Carter looks great now compared to this current former vice president. And Kamala, a lot worse, actually. A lot worse. Now, we've had RFK come over. He's endorsed in some states, swing states. He's endorsed Trump. And then we have Tulsi Gabbard, who's come in and endorsed, and apparently they're touring the country together. I just saw Trump and RFK speaking together at a rally. I just saw, they called it a town hall, even though it was mainly kind of like a Trump speech with like 2 or 3 questions with Tulsi Gabbard. So it looks like it's basically Trump versus Kamala. I guess RFK will be on the ballot in a lot of the states still, but he's telling you if you're in a swing state, he wants you to vote for Trump. So there you go. Now, the Second Amendment's always on the ballot, no matter what. The Second Amendment has been treated as a second-class right for so long now. It's part of the political propaganda and platform. Well, kind of, but not really anymore for the Republicans. Because if you look, the Republican platform that they changed for this year, essentially doesn't even mention the Second Amendment. I mean, go read it. It like barely does. Barely. Like it barely mentions the Second Amendment for this much. Then it's gone. So this year, the Republican Party has decided to weaken their stance on the Second Amendment. And it's just true. Go look it up if you don't believe me. They've decided to weaken their stance on the Second Amendment by a lot. And the Democrats they don't mention the Second Amendment at all on their platform, but they have a whole list of what they call gun safety measures, which is gun control, which is tyrannical and completely and utterly unconstitutional, but they don't care. They don't care about the Constitution whatsoever. And I think all of you know that by now. Now, I'm going to ask you guys one more question, and shout out to everyone who's watching on replay. This is a holiday weekend, so a lot of people might be watching this late. And also, when this stream's over tonight, I do have a live stream scheduled on Rumble and Locals, okay? These are both censorship-free platforms, all right? So make sure you guys check that out. We're going to be going over there, in about an hour from now. A little bit less than an hour, actually, because on Locals and Rumble, it's censorship-free. And we can touch guns while we're live. And I want to tell you guys about some awesome deals that you may not know about, that you really might want to take advantage of. And I'll tell you about some good deals here tonight too, but many of them we're going to have to discuss over on those alternate platforms, right? So make sure you guys check all that out. Now, here's the thing. The Second Amendment. How many of you out there, and you can just think about this to yourself, whether you're watching live or on replay, I know it's an important issue to all of you, or you wouldn't be here. And I also know that some people have a list of important issues that are very important to them, and I do too. I have a whole long list of things that are extremely important to me with this country and with this election. But like I've said so many times before, I love the Bill of Rights, literally all of it. But I like the Second Amendment just a little bit more than the rest, because I believe the Second Amendment was put there not for if, but for when. They come for all the rest, and they're coming for all the rest of the Bill of Rights and the whole Constitution, and people just like me and people just like you. Look, if you even say you support the Second Amendment, you're added to the MVE list. They just expanded that list just within the past week. This is the deep state. This is the fourth unequal, unchecked branch of government. They're literally trying to destroy this whole country by the minute. And I believe the Second Amendment is the only thing right now that's slowing them down, maybe a teeny bit. And if it ever progresses further, the only thing that might be able to save this republic, like Ben Franklin said, if you can keep it. So with that said, and this makes me like extremely unpopular among the Second Amendment community so often. But that's okay, though, because I'm being honest with you guys, which is something that's very rare right now. I'm what they call a single issue voter. And a lot of people don't like a single issue voter. Some people do. And we all like each other, whether you think it's dumb to be a single issue voter or not. That's totally fine with me. And I'm fine with you guys being single issue voters. If it's the Second Amendment, if it's another issue. But how many single issue voters are there out there? Am I the only one? Meaning I care about so many things, and I do keep track of all of the different platforms. I'm keeping track of federal, state, and local, because we need to focus on all of those. Especially focus on local and state. But when it comes to these elections that are coming up, whether it's up or down the ballot, whether it's at the very bottom or the very top, now the bottom are millages and all this, which I usually always vote no for, because I believe you give the government money, they always squander it and always screw it up. And I believe in less government, like drastically less government, and more Constitution. See, I'm not a Democrat, no matter what. Like, heck no. Even the thought of Kamala Harris being in the White House scares the crap out of me. Like, this will be insane. Like, probably 10 times worse than the current former Vice President Biden. And he's like 10 times worse than Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter was the worst one we've ever had. So it's literally getting to be that bad right now. So definitely not a Democrat. Never have been. I'm sure I never will be. I'm also not a Republican. Look. I'm voting for the Second Amendment. Whoever I think will best defend and uphold their oath, which is to the Constitution, including the second time it was amended, and the rest of the Bill of Rights. I'm also not a libertarian. Look, shout out to my Republican friends. Shout out to my libertarian friends. I don't care for the Libertarian Party candidate or much of its platform either. Now, many libertarians and I see eye to eye on the Second Amendment. That's why we're friends. Many Republicans and me see eye to eye on the Second Amendment. That's why we're friends. It seems like there used to be some Democrats that would see eye to eye on the Second Amendment, but not so much anymore. Those days are pretty much gone. And now the Democrat platform is completely and utterly anti-Second Amendment. However, the Republican Party and their platform barely mentions. Has anyone else read it? I can't be the only one. There has to be a lot of Republicans in here, right? I know some of you guys are delegates that watch this stream. I know some of you guys are representatives and many other office holders who watch these live streams. I'm sure Republicans must be aware of the Republican platform, which, like I said, I'm going to be fair. Has just about this much support for the Second Amendment, and the way they shrunk it down from the last platform to the current one, at this rate, they probably won't even mention the Second Amendment anymore soon at all, if I were to guess. So it puts us in a situation. Where you guys are going to have to vote for somebody. Or I guess not vote at all. Which, not voting at all, that means you let other people. You operate under the consent of the governed, of what other people's consent is, what other people's choice is. And I think you all need to vote, because I don't think it's just your right, but I think it's your duty. And you talk about the different boxes, the 4 different boxes that you can enter into the arena of. And the ballot box is part of the fundamentals of the United States, always has been. And as long as we can keep this country, always will be. Now, I know many people are disillusioned about the way the process works. I know a lot of you remember what happened in the middle of the night 4 years ago. And it was going on even before that, probably too, and many other state races and other things. But a lot of people think to themselves, geez, doesn't even matter anymore. Like Stalin said, it's not really so much of what the votes are, it's who counts the votes. It doesn't matter who you vote for, it's who counts the votes. And I think some of you guys are familiar with that. But am I literally the only one that's a single issue voter? And it's tough for me, but I want to read this article that does kind of give a balance on the Second Amendment of kind of a Trump v. Harris thing. And I think it's actually pretty fair, believe it or not. I'm going to share that with you in just about 2 minutes here. But it's hard for a guy like me right now. Man, is it hard. I'm looking at, I'm like, okay. Anti-gun RFK Jr., who I like many of his other policies. I do. And I think he's very, very smart when it comes to many, many things. He's anti-gun. He's been anti-Second Amendment his whole life. He's jumped onto the Trump team. Tulsi Gabbard. Look, she says she's changed. Maybe she has. I hope she has. I truly do. Tulsi Gabbard has been anti-gun when she was a congressman. So that doesn't do much to enthuse a single issue voter on the Second Amendment. However, is this going to be an election for people where it's not a matter of who you're most excited about? You just vote like against who you're the most afraid of, or vote against who you dislike the most? I don't know. I'm not sure. But there are some people now saying with this Tim AWOLs, I call him Governor AWOLs. Look, he puts his rank. He says right on his governor's website, he retired as Command Sergeant Major. The lieutenant colonel who runs that National Guard post that he served in came out and said, no, that's not the rank he retired under, actually. And the way it worked, he never actually achieved that final rank in hindsight because he never successfully completed all of the criteria for it. He was frocked. I think that's the word you guys use. I wasn't in the military, but I do consult with military veterans to try to understand some of these terminologies, right, Mateo? Mateo tries to help me with some of this. It's kind of a complicated concept, but this Tim AWOLs, it was called, he was frocked into Command Sergeant Major, but since he quit and bailed This is according to people who served with him. Look, his service has been questioned more than like anybody's service in a long time by many, many people who served with him and other people. Many veterans calling him out right now like crazy. Before he could successfully complete the criteria, he quit right as his troops that he was supposed to be deployed with were sent overseas into some nasty battles too. Nasty battles where everybody didn't end up okay afterwards. But they're trying to appeal somehow, saying, well, when he was a congressman, he wasn't so bad on the Second Amendment. Yeah, he pandered to his rural district he represented in Minnesota because he was trying to appeal to the hunters. And now they've got this Kamala AWOL's hat that's camo. And they say it's actually getting some of the hunting crowd over into the Kamala camp now, which is just so hard for me to believe that that would earn somebody's support. Like a hat. Like, I get it if they had a hat like this. If somebody wore a hat that said 2A on it and got up there and said, ladies and gentlemen, my platform is shall not be infringed, and we will repeal the NFA and every single unconstitutional gun law. Thank you. Have a nice day. That would get my vote right there. I'd have to believe them, obviously, but that would be the only thing I would need to hear. But here's the crazy part. Most gun owners, hunters, and even Second Amendment supporters don't actually vote at all. I don't know. Is it because like the gun owners and Second Amendment supporters are just the laziest bunch in the whole country? I mean, that's one scenario. Or are they just disillusioned with all of it and they're like, screw it. Damned if I do, damned if I don't, so I'll just stay home. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys can answer why that is, but I just keep hearing the same statistics coming up over and over again on how few gun owners actually vote. It's like one of the smallest statistical numbers that vote in the whole country, which is like literally crazy. And there's like 100 million gun owners in this country, and there's more guns in this country than there are people. Okay. But somehow, like, dude, if we had all the gun owners coming out and voting for the candidate that was going to support the Second Amendment on all levels, up and down the ballot, it wouldn't even be close. They wouldn't even think about gun control if you had a voter base of 100 million people. So, yeah. I asked when I first started, there's more people that have joined now. Are you guys, is anyone out there a single issue voter and you're just going to vote on the Second Amendment? Or do you guys do the whole, like, add it all up? Do you have kind of a point system that you use to decide who to vote for? Like, maybe there's 10 issues that are important to you. And if one person, like, whoever wins, whoever's better on those 10, that gets your vote. That sounds like a reasonable way to do it. And I've had friends tell me that. I've had other people say they just kind of vote on a gut feeling. And then there's another big group of people I know that just vote on party lines. They just walk up and put the circle in next to the R, or they put the circle in next to the D, and that's it. And they go home and they don't research anything, which is another very, very popular way for people to vote. I don't know. I'm going to get into this article, though, because it brings up lots of good points. But before we do, I want to thank all of you guys for the many ways you help support the channel. Thanks for all of you during these live streams who leave super chats. That you guys are my sponsors. Look, I'm not doing any ad reads. Nobody's paying me any money right now. I'm literally just whatever you guys are willing to donate. Also, all the YouTube channel members, where you guys get access to bonus content, as well as the Patreon supporters. Same thing. I appreciate all of you, and I have posted bonus content there recently, and also over on Locals. Look, you can join free. You can actually support the channel financially over there totally for free, or you can support to help keep the channel going and access to extra perks. So thank you to all of you who support in the many, many ways you guys do. I really appreciate you guys, and I will check all of the chat on replay. So even if I don't read all the chats right now, I'll see it afterwards, and I'll know you guys were here. Also, check out Infinity Targets. There's still an awesome sale. The link is down there in the description. These targets are really, really cool. I highly recommend. Blackout Coffee, huge sale going on right now. There's a code in the description where you can save 23% on your whole order. And if you use that link, it does help the channel. And we're talking like awesome coffee. Like literally, I think it's the best that there is out there. It's also a very awesome pro Second Amendment company who's not compromising. I just hung out with those guys at the GOA Goals event recently in Tennessee, and 23% off. They have quite a bit of cool swag, but you should be over there looking at their coffee, tea, hot chocolate, and the link is down there in the description. Be safe, Joe Pichetti. Nice to see you, man. Thanks for being a channel supporter. I appreciate you, man. Joe's a Southern boy. He's been around a long time, man. Nice to see you, Joe. Also, JM4 has a 20% off coupon. Look, these are Labor Day deals. And you think these deals are good here? These are just the milquetoast ones YouTube allows me to share. Make sure you check out my Rumble channel and X, okay, as well as Locals. I post deals over on those places, and I am going to be live streaming on Locals and Rumble tonight. And also check out in the description Myriad Social. It's a censorship-free site and also uncensorable, built on the blockchain. I shared a smoking deal that's like under 40 bucks. It's actually under 35 bucks that you guys might want to rush over and check out, because I ordered like 4 of them myself, and don't expect it to stay around very long, but there's an awesome deal that I just shared. Also, shout out to RPM, which is Rockville Precision Munitions. Here's some of their 62 grain 5.56. You can get more information about them in the descriptions of my Rumble and Local streams that I will be going to tonight. And they're located in Middle Tennessee. I'll tell you what, man, I posted a video over on Locals and Rumble shooting some of their 9mm. That's spicy stuff, like really, really nice ammo. So make sure you go check that out. One more thing, if you're in Michigan, go to the community tab here on YouTube. Go to my community page. We post pictures, events, deals that are suitable for YouTube, which, again, the good deals are over on Locals and Myriad Social and sometimes X as well. So make sure you follow me those places. But there's a Second Amendment rally in Hillsdale County. It's tomorrow. So if you're within driving distance of that, I left a link to their Facebook page where they have all of the details. But the flyer, which should get you what you need to know, is right here on my Locals community page. And if you guys remember last weekend in the chat, there was a picture of me with Clover Tack. Shout out. He's a good dude. And also the lovely Linda, Ultra Mega Mama. I don't see her in the chat right now. They were actually at Cedar Point earlier today, so maybe she's just a little bit too tired to watch the stream, or she's probably watching the stream just on the TV where she can't chat. But if you are watching, come in and say hi to everybody. I told you guys we're going to have a contest to see which picture will get more likes. The one with the beautiful, lovely Linda, or with Clover Tack. And the post with Linda has more likes, and that's good. I wanted to make sure that me and her beat him, because, you know, he's a good dude, but you got to beat him, because you know what I'm saying. So make sure you guys also check out my community page on YouTube. That's where I put announcements and whatnot. So this is an article here. It comes from, the website's called reason.com. And it's an article by Jacob Sullum. I'll show you guys my screen real quick here, just so you guys can go check this article out afterward. And it kind of goes through the whole back and forth about the Second Amendment with the Kamala, right? With the Kamala AWOLs. What do you guys think? Who's worse? Governor AWOLs wants to put tampons in all the boys' bathrooms. Look, this just reminds me. Oh, do you guys remember the Supreme Court Justice? I remember her well. I just can't remember her name. I think they call her Jumanji. I think that's her name. Look, these people's names, they change their names every time they talk. Look, this Kamala. I mean, look, what's her name? I don't know. It just depends what interview she's in. Do you guys remember she was sitting next to Governor AWOLs in this cornball interview? And he's just sitting there like with this. Yeah, I wouldn't let my kids around him. There's something with him not right. I'll just leave it at that. I would not allow small children around him, in my opinion. And he's just sitting there with this grimace. And he's like towering over her. And she's just sitting there going, Who's worse, Governor AWOLs or Kamala? Look, the one started down on her knees. That's why I say if she gets elected, knee pads. Look, it's a piece of gear that people use. Working people, you use them in combat. Bricklayers, mechanics, electricians. They're going to skyrocket in price. This woman spent more time on her knees than anyone we know except for maybe Gretchen. right? Maybe Gretchen, the governor of Michigan. It's a close battle. Ask Kamala about Willie Brown. Look, she slept her way to the top. These are not good people. These are not clean-cut people. These are not moral people. I mean, these are not people that your young daughter should look up to. I'll tell you that much. Don't look up to these people. And in my opinion, don't let your kids near that AWOLs. Don't let your kids near any of these. These are nuts. These are, like I said, this is evil. And that's what this is all about. It always has been a battle of good versus evil. But while she was down on her knees trying to work her way to the top, as they call it, you know what I mean? She worked her way to the top the old-fashioned way. I mean, they literally talk about this stuff in the Bible. Like, prostitution is one of the oldest trades, like professions, okay? Yeah. This one here, like I said, which one's worse, though? Kamala or AWOLs? Jeez, oh, Pete. I don't know, man. It's tough. What's happening, Mateo? Who's worse? I told the people that I was going through some of the stuff with AWOLs, and you were helping educate me. So don't blame me if I'm repeating it wrong. But Mateo kind of explained to me what it meant when the governor, right? He says soon he's going to be the vice president. He was frocked, right? Isn't that what that's called? It's called frocked into command sergeant major. I don't know. Mateo tried to explain it to me, and it's really complicated stuff. But at the end of the day, most veterans I know, are questioning the crap out of this guy's service. Like, not whether he served or not. That's not what I mean. But like the way in which and his titles. And anyways, this is from Reason Magazine. And I'm going to read it here because when I printed it out, the typeset was pretty darn small. Okay, which one's worse? Equally as bad. Neck Red saying, okay. What's happening, James Kawasaki? How you doing, Jane Locke? Oh, nice. Thank you, Jane. I appreciate you using my link. Yeah, like I said, you guys can literally like financially support the channel for free just by checking out any of my locals deals. The link's down in the description of my Rumble streams. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Occult Prepper saying which one's worse? They're both separate wings of the same rotting bird. Yeah. Well, at least she can fetch you a cup of coffee, Fat Gray Man says. Speaking of coffee, guys, check that out. 23% off. Okay? 23% off. Blackout Coffee. Just use my link, though, and it'll save you some money by using that code there, and it'll help the channel a little bit. But I'd be mopping up on that coffee as much as I could right now if I were you. Because you're going to need it. You're going to be staying up all night debating all this. Bill Camperus, how you doing, man? Thank you for being a long-time channel supporter. Yeah, they might be the worst candidates in U.S. history. I know. Dale, what's happening, Dale? Says it's a tie. Okay, I see where you guys are at with this. Yeah. What's happening, Drain the Swamp? How you doing, man? Lucky Dog 350X. Wow, look at all these good people. Gort, what's happening, Gort? Pillbox Bunker, how you doing, man? Yeah, me and Pillbox and others have been out of power throughout this last week. His came on like even a little later than mine, like yesterday. We were out of power for days this week. It sucked. So again, this is from Reason. That's the name of the website, Reason. It says free minds and free markets. And I just read this article. I don't know who they are, really. And it's by a guy named Jacob Sullum. Neither Harris nor her party perceives any constitutional constraints on gun control. No constitutional constraints? This must be good. The 2024 Democratic platform devotes 5 paragraphs to firearm restrictions, but does not even allude to the Second Amendment. That's tough. That's really, really tough. That's bad. And I'm going to say this because we got to be fair. The Republican Party needs to really turn things around and get their butts in gear because this isn't adequate either. Is it less worse than the Democrats' platform? Of course. But I'm tired of less worse. Gosh, am I tired of less worse. While this year's Republican Party platform makes only a passing reference to the Second Amendment rights, that's true. They took out like sentences. What do you think, Jane Locke? I know you've been a delegate for a long time. The Republicans they essentially, guys, look, they left like this much in. Get out your magnifying glass. They left this much of the Second Amendment in, got rid of almost all references, but the platform approved at the Democratic National Convention this week does not mention them at all. but it does include 8 references to, quote, gun safety and a section that brags about the Biden administration's accomplishments in the area while laying out an agenda of additional firearms restrictions. The treatment of this subject is similar to the approach that the Democrats took in 2016. Bernie never had a chance. Do you guys remember that? Bernie was winning the whole country, and Hillary just came in. They called it super delegates. How do these people sleep at night? At least the Republican Party, they let their people vote, okay? Trump won the primary. Look, it was hotly contested. At one time, DeSantis was the front runner. Remember that? There was Nikki Haley. There was many others. There was Vivek Ramaswamy. I've met Vivek. Nice guy. Seems to be very pro-Second Amendment, but he didn't. Trump won the primary. He did. And now he's the candidate. The Democrats, it doesn't even matter who runs. I don't know. When I see 2016, it makes me remember that. They literally don't even let their party members even vote on who becomes the candidate. Like, it's insane. It's similar to the approach the Democrats took in 2016 when their platform mentioned the rights of responsible gun owners. Oh, boy. But did not elucidate the basis of those rights. And in 2020, when the platform did not go even that far. See, both parties are becoming less. See, the Democrats are becoming more pro-gun control, and the Republican Party is becoming less pro-Second Amendment. That's what's happening right now. The 2016 platform devoted a paragraph to gun control, okay, which became 2 paragraphs in 2022 and is now expanded to 5 paragraphs. See, we're getting some good Supreme Court victories. Judge Reed O'Connor out of Texas, the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals, and other courts. We're getting victories there. But as far as parties' platforms, we're actually losing right now, guys. Probably because, not many Second Amendment supporters and gun owners are voting anymore, which is like this. All these stats are just hitting everybody right in the face right now. It's like one of the most talked about things in the political arena is they're like, dude, like the Second Amendment just isn't much of an issue anymore. And that's what they're showing up. They're saying, dude, Second Amendment supporters don't vote. So why would we need to cater to them? So we're seeing the Democrat Party going more and more rapidly towards gun control. And we are seeing the Republican Party defending it less and less and less. And it's just where we're drifting right now, and it's tough. Neither of the 2 most recent platforms so much as alludes to respect for gun rights. By contrast, the Democrats in 2000, promised, now this was 24 years ago, this shows you how much this has changed, promised to, quote, respect the rights of hunters, sportsmen, and legitimate gun owners. Now that's real milk toasty for people like me and people like you, but they did have that there. 4 years later, after the gun issue, including Al Gore's support for banning, quote, assault weapons, was widely blamed for contributing to George W. Bush's election, Democrats promised to protect Americans' Second Amendment right to own firearms. The 2008 and 2012 platforms included similar language in both cases, explicitly invoking the Second Amendment, which disappeared in the 2016 platform. And now it does not even seem like a dim memory for the Democrats. Just think about that. Just 12 years ago, the Democrats said they promised to protect Americans' Second Amendment rights in their official party platform. And now here we are right now. Did you guys know that this stuff was moving like that far away? What's happening, Midwest Logger? How you doing, man? Taking a peek at the chat to see if anybody's... Yeah, I'm sure somebody out there is interested in this topic. Right, Mateo? How you doing, Midwest Logger? Nice to see you, man. This continues, and this is an opinion op-ed with tons of facts in it, too. That's why I kind of like this article. It tells both sides of it. I'm not saying all these are my opinions. I'm just going through and commentating on the article. Whatever you make of former President Donald Trump's evolution on gun rights, which seemed to reflect political expedience rather than true conviction, and I think everybody would agree with that. I don't think anyone would even argue with that at all. I think that's pretty much right. He at least understands the importance of paying lip service to the Second Amendment And he does. In all of his rallies, he says, I will protect the Second Amendment. And that's all he says. He keeps it just about as short as you possibly can, but that's true. He does barely mention it in every rally and speech that he does. The current Democratic Party, by contrast, is intent on pushing gun control without acknowledging any constitutional limits on it. Here's a quote. When I'm back on the Oval Office, no one will lay a finger on your firearms. Trump promised the National Rifle Association's Great American Outdoor Show Presidential Forum in Harrisburg, PA on February 9th. Here's another quote. It's not going to happen. Even as they turn America into a crime-ridden, gang-infested, terror-filled dumping ground, Joe Biden and his thugs will do everything in their power to confiscate your guns and annihilate your God-given right to self-defense. During my 4 years, nothing happened. And there was a great pressure on me having to do with guns. We did nothing. We didn't yield. Now, okay, half of that paragraph's true. The other half is just not true at all. If you look, the Democrats are trying to turn America into a crime-ridden, gang-infested, terror-filled dumping ground. That's true. And I just talked a few weeks ago about how Kamala Harris had a whole scheme and all of the tools and all of the lists when she was Attorney General of California to go door to door and confiscate people's firearms. Like, this is literally like what they're going to do. In my opinion, they're going to try their hardest. And they've done it before. Like I said, you can literally look at her record at California and see this. So he's right about all that. The second half of what he said, it's just not true. Let me keep reading. In their platform, the Democrats quote those last four sentences, which they consider damning. Quote, while he did nothing, gun violence spiked. See, this is what's so crazy right now. This is why I want to go through this article. On the left, okay, the leftists, maybe not all Democrats, but we'll call them leftists, which, you know, most of the Democrat Party nowadays, obviously, they say Trump did nothing against guns. He did nothing to protect people from all these crazy assault weapons and all this rhetoric they use. So they're pissed at Trump because they say he didn't do enough. Then there's 2A absolutists like me. That makes me very unpopular sometimes amongst my own peers. Second Amendment supporters berate me sometimes when I just speak the truth. But I am speaking the truth about both sides. And clearly I berate the one side like crazy. I actually use like ad hominems against Kamala. Trump, I never even make fun of. I just tell you guys the truth when Trump comes on and lies about the Second Amendment. That's just because that's just the way it is. The Second Amendment's extremely important to me. So look, but then there's people like me that are like, excuse me? Yes, he did touch the Second Amendment. Yes, he did go after guns. Yes, he did ban things. It's just crazy. It just depends who you're listening to. The left says he did nothing and he needed to ban a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, no, Trump did do stuff for gun control. But that just proves it's never, ever enough. And hopefully Trump's learned that. I don't know that he's capable of learning that, but hopefully he did. And I really mean that. Because, look, he banned things. He called for much more gun control than he even got by with. And it still isn't enough. You still have the left pounding the crap out of him saying, well, he did nothing. Gun violence spiked. Trump oversaw the largest single year increase in murders in history, and this is what Democrats say, by the way, including a 35% increase in gun murders. He refused to limit the use of high-capacity magazines after a Las Vegas shooter used a dozen 100-round mags to kill 58 people. And when confronted with horrific gun violence, he told families to, quote, get over it. And that is something the Democrats have been repeating over and over again. Okay, now the author continues. Both of these glosses require correction. I agree. Although Trump claims, this is where it comes down to both sides are just lying as hard as they can about everything with the Second Amendment. It's like, oh, stop, people. There's people like me, and I assume most of you have been keeping track of all of this. It's like, geez. Although Trump claims he did nothing on gun control, that's not true. And I'm reading the article just so you guys know. After the October 2017 Las Vegas massacre, he demanded an administrative ban on bump stocks, which the Supreme Court overturned last June, ruling that it exceeded gun regulators' statutory authority. Some of my friends say that's a win for Trump because they overturned. Some of my friends say, dude, that's not a win for Trump. He did something so unconstitutional, the Supreme Court smacked him down and said that his executive orders were unconstitutional. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if that's a good or bad thing. During a February 2018 meeting with legislators, Trump spoke favorably on requiring background checks. I remember this meeting well. Oh, I wish this meeting would have never happened, but I do remember it, unfortunately. Trump spoke favorably of requiring background checks for all gun transfers, raising the minimum age for buying long guns, preemptively confiscating guns from people who might be dangerous. That was the red flag laws that he called for. And even banning so-called assault weapons, to the visible delight of Senator Dianne Feinstein. Me and Mateo were just talking about this on the phone the other day. When Trump said all that during that meeting, it was like a meeting that was being filmed by the press. Trump says all that, and Feinstein goes, I mean, she like actually got active for once. And John Cornyn was sitting there, which John Cornyn, he voted for the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, so-called, that had tons of gun control in there, making millions of people prohibited persons, delaying people's right to keep and bear arms, and with transfers having exceedingly long times for especially minors, many other people. Even Cornyn knew, though, he had to kind of act like a Republican. He kind of looks at Trump like, and he kind of got like stiff as a board, like, oh, shoot. And Feinstein was giddy. I do remember that. That sucked bad. I didn't like that. On other occasions, Trump voiced support for banning gun possession by people on no-fly lists and for red flag laws, which authorized court orders that suspend the Second Amendment rights of people deemed a danger to themselves or others. He went so far as to say that the police should, quote, take the guns first and, quote, go through due process second when they think someone is dangerous. Still, it is true that Trump's comments did not translate into any actual policy changes aside from the bump stock ban. He did ban all of the Molot imports from Russia. Those were very high-end AKs that I noticed when they got banned because I used to buy those and now I can't afford to buy them anymore. And this article is not just bagging on Trump. Trust me, guys. This author's just showing that, look, both sides are. Trump says he did nothing. The Democrats say that he's terrible because of that. And then people who are like pro-Second Amendment absolutists and single-issue voters are like, what do you mean you did nothing? And he's just calling it out, how it is. The Democrats' implication that loose gun control. I'm sorry, I just skipped a sentence here. Let me back up. Trump's reaction to the Las Vegas mass shooting shows that Democrats' portrayal of him as unfazed by such a horrifying crime is blatantly inaccurate. Yeah, that's true. He wasn't unfazed. He banned bump stocks, which the way he did it led to banning all these other things and like the next 10 ATF rules that came out after the fact. Their use of the get over it quote is highly misleading. Here's what Trump actually said after a school shooting in Iowa last January. Quote, it's just horrible. So surprising to see it here, but we have to get over it. We have to move forward. And I do remember that quote as well. And the Democrat politicians did take that quote completely and utterly out of context, and they're bad people. The Democrats' implication that loose gun control was responsible for the 2020 spike in homicides, likewise, is hard to take seriously. I agree, actually. There was no change in gun policy that could account for that surge, nor was there any change in gun policy that could account for the recent declines in homicide, a development the Democrats are quick to emphasize when Trump tries to blame the Biden administration for supposedly skyrocketing murder rate. And their implicit thesis that more guns means more violence is contradicted by crime trends since the early 90s. And read Dr. John Lott's book, More Guns, Less Crime. He's the leading statistician on this topic, and he literally proves it. From 1993 to 2013, when the homicide rate fell by more than half, the estimated number of guns owned by Americans rose by about the same percentage. So that's literally crazy when you look at it, right? Yeah, Midwest Logger. I'm just going through reading this article, man. You know what I mean? I'm just reading through the article because they do bring up stuff while we're sitting here saying, look, people like me will be like, Trump was bad on the Second Amendment. Now, I've never said he's worse than Kamala. sometimes people conflate things. I'm not saying anybody will this time, but Kamala is obviously way worse. However, it's like Trump says he did nothing to affect the Second Amendment. It's just not true. The Democrats say he did nothing, meaning he didn't pass any gun control, and that's not true either. Both of them saying he did nothing, they're both lying, but coming at it from complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And I'm just sitting here dizzy being like, yeah. Politically homeless? That's like, I just need to make a big flag that says that back there. Like, at least when it comes to national politics. Look, my state representative, Jamie Thompson, awesome. Awesome. I trust her. I know what she's doing in Lansing. Look, I have reasons to get excited to vote. I'm very excited to vote on this ballot. But the top of the ticket, it's hard. It's really hard right now for some people. Because these people are nuts. In contrast, with Trump's record of doing approximately nothing to restrict guns, the Democrats brag about President Joe Biden's support for the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which include like a third of all of the Republicans in the United States Senate that voted for this disastrous, completely unconstitutional gun control bill. These are Republicans in so many of these so-called deep red conservative states. Lindsey Graham. I mean, I've gone through that list. I'll go through it in another stream before the elections, reminding you guys about all these so-called Second Amendment supporting senators in so-called super conservative states that voted for the biggest gun control that's been passed in decades. So trust me, I'm not, when I say like I'm totally disillusioned to these party politics, this isn't just about Trump. This isn't just about Kamala. This is about all of these people. These United States senators are terrible on the Second Amendment in so many cases. The first significant federal gun safety law in nearly 30 years, see? The BSCA, they say, includes the first ever federal gun trafficking and straw purchasing law. The platform does not mention that the BSCA defines gun trafficking broadly enough to encompass, quote, prohibited persons who obtain firearms, creating a new charge, punishable by up to 15 years in prison. For people like Biden's own son, who was convicted in June of buying a revolver when he was a crack user. Wow. Those prohibited persons include millions of Americans with no history of violence, whom Congress has arbitrarily deemed felons if they dare to exercise their Second Amendment rights. The categories include cannabis consumers and other illegal drug users, anyone who has ever been subject to, quote, involuntary psychiatric treatment because he was deemed suicidal, and anyone who's ever been convicted of a crime punishable by more than a year of incarceration, whether or not it involved violence of any sort. See, that's what passed with the help of tons of Republican senators from like the most conservative states, which is literally crazy. We're talking like people from Texas. We're talking about people from Kentucky, South Carolina, North Carolina. Heck, North Carolina, both Republican senators voted the same way as the Democrat senators from Michigan and California on this bill. I mean, this goes on and on and on. Before the law that Democrats proudly cite, those people already faced up to 3 felony charges for buying firearms. The BSCA's, quote, gun trafficking provision added yet another. The same law also increased the maximum penalty for illegal gun possession from 10 to 15 years. Biden evidently thought that people like his son were getting off too lightly. In recent years, these sweeping bans on gun possession have provoked many constitutional challenges, some of which have been successful. But since Democrats do not even acknowledge the existence of the Second Amendment, they're happy to double down on this unjust and irrational policy. And they promise more of the same, saying they will, quote, establish universal background checks aimed at enforcing these restrictions. The Democrat agenda also includes a new federal, quote, assault weapon ban. Another illogical, and if you live in Michigan, I think that's what the Michigan Dems are going for. We need to flip the House and Senate around in Michigan this fall, like no matter what, because I do believe that's what will be happening right after the elections in Michigan, and possibly some stuff even before that. Constitutionally dubious policy that even Biden has admitted had no effect on the lethality of guns available to would-be murderers. They want to, quote, end the gun industry's immunity from liability for legally selling guns that are later used to commit crimes. Although lawsuits that would undermine the Second Amendment by attacking businesses that enable Americans to exercise the rights it guarantees. Democrats also promise a national red flag law. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act bribes all of the states right now to get them. Michigan just got theirs signed into law this spring in March, which would compound the due process and Second Amendment violations we have already seen in states that have embraced this policy. Although Vice President Kamala Harris, is that how you say her name? I think we're going to go with Kamala, like the dromedary. Just looking at her face, she looks like a camel to me. I don't know what else to say. She just has that camel look. President Kamala Harris's current campaign website is short on specific policy positions. Yeah, she can't even talk. Did you guys see that interview the other day? She's just sitting there like, I can't do the cackle like she does. And then that Governor AWOLs is like towering over her, just sitting there with this grimace. Ooh, man. Wouldn't let him near my daughter, I'll tell you that much. Not anywhere near. These people are extremely creepy, in my opinion. The platform confirms what we already knew. She does not see the Constitution as an obstacle to her gun control agenda. Back in 2019, when Harris was vying with Biden, remember I said that, guys? She ran for president. The first state you go to is Iowa. She already dropped out before she got to the first state. She received no votes by any actual people in the Democrat primary on a ballot. Okay? But here she is. This is how they do this. Back in 2019, when Harris was vying with Biden for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination, she promised to impose new gun policies, including universal background checks, an assault weapons ban, and repeal of the NRA's corporate gun manufacturer and dealer immunity bill. And these are quotes by her. By executive fiat. Whoa, she's talking with a stroke of a pen. By executive fiat, if Congress failed to approve such legislation during her first 100 days in office, I do remember that. Look, she's the most radically left voter in the whole United States Senate. Left of Bernie Sanders, who never had a chance because it was completely rigged against him 2 elections in a row, and I'm not a Bernie fan. I'm just saying, I don't know how Democrats are fine with this. I guess they're all just brainwashed and super soft. That was too much even for Biden. Quote, there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say, I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, he said. You can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Asked about that comment during a Democratic presidential debate, Harris laughed and blithely replied, quote, well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe. Instead of saying, no, we can't, let's say, yes, we can. So when even the current former vice president, worst of all time, I think you guys agree, it's tough out there right now. This country's going to hell. And even he said, well, I can't just do that much by executive order. Kamala replied in the debate and said, yes, we can. That's how bad it's going to get. Biden objected. Let's be constitutional, he said. We've got a constitution. He also suggested that Harris should, quote, check with constitutional scholars about whether her plan was consistent with the separation of powers. While Biden aspired to be constitutional, and look, like he was not constitutional at all, obviously, that's just proving the point how bad she really is. In other words, Kamala replied, in essence, Constitution, schmonstitution. Why should that get in the way of my agenda? As president, Biden seemed to overcome his reservations about unilateral gun control. The Democratic Party platform, for instance, praises him for trying to ban homemade guns, which he did do, without congressional authorization. There's been some court victories on that, but it's still going on. Another policy that has been challenged in court. In any case, Biden's 2019 disagreement with Harris hinged on the question of whether the president has the constitutional authority to unilaterally ban, quote, assault weapons. The Second Amendment did not enter into it, even as an afterthought. So he was still arguing against her, but he never mentioned that. Look, we're not saying he's pro Second Amendment. The author's not saying that. But she's even worse than Biden. This has been Biden's governing assumption about gun control, and we can expect the same or worse from Harris. If you want to check that out, it's on a website called reason.com. The author is Jacob Solom. I just kind of liked how he went through that article because I think he did a good job talking about both sides of things. Let me take a look at the chat here. And I did get one support tonight. Kent became a YouTube member. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate the support, man. Thank you very much. I am going to head over to Locals and Rumble in just a few minutes because I already had a stream scheduled for on there. Let me take a quick peek in the chat. Do you guys have any thoughts? I read that article as fast as I could, but it covered quite a bit of stuff. Just think about it for a minute. Trump says he did nothing to touch the Second Amendment. The Democrats used that against him. Okay. And then there's a lot of Second Amendment supporters that are like, no. And they had a bone to pick or beef with Trump over it. Now, when I say beef, that doesn't mean that, you're not going to vote for Trump or you are going to. You can have beef and still vote. In fact, I was looking earlier, and I'm pretty darn sure. Now, you guys will chime in the chat later, and I am going to read, the replay of the chat. So I probably missed it. But, yeah, man, I must be kind of out of the loop. I think I'm the only single-issue voter that there is among all of us. And some of you guys just joined later, so I'll ask the question again. Is there anybody out there, besides me, that's a single-issue voter? Now, it could be for the Second Amendment or any other single issue. You could be a single-issue voter on abortion per se. That's something that some people get real passionate about. And look, I'm passionate about many, many things. I'm very, very passionate about many things. Single issue voter means when it comes down to it, though, you will vote based on, let's just say your issue is the Second Amendment, right? No matter what. Now, here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of people lately, and some people will say stuff like, look, I'm a single issue voter for the Second Amendment, but these 5 other things could change my mind on who I vote for. Well, then you're not a single issue voter then. A single issue voter is somebody that's basically like, all right, here's my line in the sand. The Second Amendment, and I like the first part even better than the second, although I love all of it, because the Second Amendment literally explains itself within itself. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Very powerful, very concise, very important. There's no room for interpretation at all because it tells you the what shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia. That's the what. A well-regulated militia and the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Because you can't have a well-regulated militia if the right to keep and bear arms is infringed. And then in case anybody had any doubts why would the Founding Fathers bother to write that down? Why would they bother to even, it was hard to write back then. Right, QD? How's it going, man? Nice to see you. So, you had to dip the quill. You know what I mean? So, but they wrote it down. Why? Because it's necessary to the security of a free state. And somehow, there's all this interpretation. Kamala believes she can just ban everything with the stroke of a pen. Biden said no, that you'd have to pass laws, but then he banned homemade firearms with the stroke of a pen, many other things. So, when we say like she's probably even worse than Biden, don't think for 1 minute that means like we cut Biden any slack. We cut him no slack at all, right? Is there any First Amendment supporters out there where your single issue is that First Amendment? And I'm not even suggesting that someone should be a single issue voter. I'm not even saying it's a good thing to do. I'm not even saying it's an intelligent thing to do. I'm just literally asking if anybody else is, and you don't have to answer. You don't at all. I was just trying to have a conversation. DLD After Dark with the super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man. And shout out to you and your channel and all your hard work. He says, blessings to you and your family. Well, God bless you and your family as well. And that was cool that we got to meet, right? You got to meet my family down in Knoxville, Tennessee. It was good seeing you, man. And good to see you here tonight. Man, we need to get rid of so many amendments to the Constitution past the 10th, like all of them. I say we just get rid of all of the amendments past the 10th. Every one of them has gotten us worse and worse and worse. I'm not a big fan of the 12th Amendment. You guys can look those up if you want. Sean Zimmerman, how's it going, man? He says, you are not a single issue voter either, as much as you think you may be, or you wouldn't vote. Interesting. You wouldn't say one is less against 2A, but you and I both do. Or you wouldn't vote at all for anyone who violated it. Yeah. And here's the thing. I understand that. I was a lesser of two evils guy for a long time. A lot longer than I wish I was in hindsight. Hey, I'm not telling you to change your mind, man. I totally get it. But I'm tired of it. I can't plug my nose anymore. You know what I mean? And I think your comment assumes that there is somebody on there that I'm going to vote for. I wouldn't necessarily assume. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about lots of things. Fat Great Man says, I have trouble calling myself a single issue voter when I'm voting for someone who doesn't support belt-fed machine guns and vending machines. But he's much better than the alternative. Yeah. Yeah. I've established that between the two, I have no doubt that Trump's way less worse. Trust me, way less worse. What people forget sometimes is this is a populist that's still running right now. You know what I mean? That's still running right now. Whose mind might be able to be changed, but I don't really mean it that way because I don't know that you can change mind. What changes minds is if there's enough of a populist pushback. That's how you change a populist mind. When we have a lot more time, maybe I'll try to explain it to some of you someday. But just critiquing somebody doesn't mean that you're trying to make them lose. Critiquing somebody doesn't mean that you want the other side to win. Sometimes you try to critique somebody and call them out on their BS because you're trying to hope you can spark something that will get them to change for the better. And not because you can truly make someone change, like philosophically, I understand that. But get them to change publicly if they're a populist, right? What's happening, Flying Rich? Nice to see you, man. What about the First Amendment? Is there anyone who's like a big First Amendment supporter? I'm going to ask you guys one more question here, and then we're going to jump off because I do have live streams scheduled where we can touch guns on Locals and Rumble here in a few minutes. And I will be streaming on Locals tomorrow night, Saturday night. So that's why I said make sure you guys are sign up for my Locals. You can sign up totally free. Awesome deals over there. If you don't want to do that, check out a deal I posted on Myriad Social, also on X. And I will be over to both those places in just a few minutes. What about the First Amendment? I'm going to ask you guys a question, and we can talk about it more next week, just for us to think about over the weekend. Ron Meyer just left a $2 super chat. Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. Thank you for all of you guys who help support. Any First Amendment supporters? Now, this is a tough question, and it's already been decided by the Supreme Court, but I'm going to ask you guys a question here. The American flag, okay? And I'm seriously just asking you guys this. This is not some hidden agenda thing. I just want to have a conversation, and we'll think about this. Think about it over the weekend. You know what I mean? We can come back and talk about it down there in the comments or in the live chat. The American flag, burning it. Do you guys believe that it's protected by the First Amendment to burn your own American flag? Because there was a candidate that just said in a rally just the other day that they want there to be a mandatory 1-year prison sentence if you burn a flag, and they even talked about like an expedited type of hearing, something kind of extrajudicial outside of normal due process, is how I took it. But I haven't seen the actual full, like I haven't seen it on their website yet. What do you guys think? Now, I'm being very specific when I ask this question, because if not, we could go into a million other tangents. Your American flag that you bought and paid for. I'm not going to give you my answer right now. I actually have an opinion on it. I truly do. I just wanted to see what you guys thought. Now, I don't want to move it to other things. That's why I say it's your American flag, and let's just say you're doing it in a perfectly safe way as far as you're not spreading a fire. Because if not, we have multiple variables here. I'm only focusing on a First Amendment issue. Of course, if you were to burn anything that's attached to their house, if you were burning their shutters or their American flag or their Don't Tread on Me flag, if you were burning somebody else's flag attached to their house, we've got two major issues. You don't have the right to burn down somebody else's house because you don't like their expression of the First Amendment. Very clear on that. I'm sure everybody agrees with me. You also don't have the right to destroy somebody else's property they worked for, because that's their property that they own. People have property rights. Now, the government steals people's property all the time, and taxation is theft. But just because the government does it and they're very immoral and wrong doesn't mean we need to be immoral and wrong. And we shouldn't be. I hope we're not. But look, so this isn't like it's attached to someone else's house and it could also burn their house down, because it's a whole other set of issues. I'll give you an example. Should you be able to legally burn your American flag out on your concrete driveway? It's not going to catch anything else on fire under my scenario. You paid for that flag. Do you think you should be able to put it in a steel garbage can and burn your own American flag that you bought with your own money, or someone gave it to you, whatever? You own it. You lawfully own it. Should you be able to burn it in a metal garbage can and say F the United States while you're filming it? I'm just curious, because there's a very popular candidate that literally just came out and said that they said, even though the Supreme Court has found it unconstitutional to criminalize burning the American flag, that they want to make it a mandatory 1-year prison sentence for burning that flag. Now, I'll tell you guys next week whether I think that law should happen or not. We're talking illegal, keep in mind, because I don't like seeing people burn the American flag. I'll tell you guys that much right now. I don't like seeing people burn the American flag. It does not give me a good feeling. Flying it upside down is totally different. I have my American flag flying upside down right now, and you can see there's no ashes or burn marks on it. I'm not burning the American flag. I'm flying it upside down because I believe we're a nation in distress. I believe we're under attack by most of the rest of the world, and primarily in many cases under attack by our own government, more than even other countries, although BRICS is getting to be pretty formidable, and I'm getting kind of nervous about what they're doing right now. Putting your flag upside down is not disrespectful. It means it's in distress. It was an old thing where the base would hoist the flag upside down to show this fort's under distress, it's under attack, hoping that if more friendlies, right, would see that flag, they'd come to the aid. I mean, that's literally what its origins are. So I don't like it. I'll just tell you guys that much. I do not like seeing someone burn the flag. I don't like it. But that's not me answering whether I think that it should be a year in prison or illegal. These are not the same things. In fact, I just saw QD say somebody will probably kick your butt if they see you burning the American flag. It's not illegal, though. See, and there's things like that go down, right? And that's just culture. Look, that just has to do with what the culture is. I mean, dude, there's so many laws of the books that aren't even followed right now because culture says they're not going to follow those laws. There's other things that aren't even against the law, and they're still violating us. Lady D, MS free. What's happening, Lady D? Says, I agree. Mine's been upside down since 2008. Yeah. Now, the Supreme Court has decided, just so you know, guys know, this is Supreme Court precedent that you can't make a law, because there was a law previously that said it was illegal to burn the American flag, and the Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. That violates the First Amendment point blank. Okay, there's a front runner candidate right now saying they want 1 year mandatory in prison if you burn a flag. So this is a point to think about. You know, I know some of you guys said, well, you're maybe you're not, necessarily as much on the Second Amendment as you are the First Amendment. I get it. Everyone has their passions. Maybe it's all of the above. Ooh, what's this? QD just came in super generous and gifted 20 2A EDU memberships. Wow, that's a lot, man. Thank you. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing good, man. We're going to have to talk sometime soon. At least send me a text or something and let me know you're doing okay. I know I have your number too, and the phone works both ways. So I'll blame myself, not you. I'll blame myself that I haven't been texting you lately, but I hope everything's going on good for you and your family, and everything's going good, man. I really do. And you guys, 20 of you now have access to some extra content here on YouTube that you can watch thanks to QD. I hope you guys are thanking him kindly. Oh yeah, you guys are thanking him. I knew you guys would. Very polite audience in here tonight. Yeah. Now you guys are bringing up some good points. I that's just something to think about, man. We're gonna jump over to Locals and Rumble in just 2 minutes, guys. Literally, I'm just kind of skimming through this chat. Flying Rich says, and the principle of allowing speech, I disagree with. Yes, I support burning the flag. Yeah, man, it's a tough and some of you guys may disagree. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way, Rich. I'm just saying it's tough because you're like, in supporting speech, I don't agree with. Here's the crazy part, though, man. The left can't live and let live. What happened to the old hippy-dippy liberals? Or were they all just liars? I don't know, man. You guys tell me. Maybe some of you are Reformed Democrats, or maybe you didn't leave the Democrat Party, but the Democrat Party left you. I think that's what Ronald Reagan said 60 years ago or whatever. But think about this for a minute. My philosophy is, look, you guys, the left used to be that way. Remember, live and let live, bro. Like, you do you, I'll do me. Just don't tread on me. And it used to be all the leftists were punk rock and they were F the government. And I remember when that kind of music was real popular. And now it's just kind of like, I mean, look at all of Woodstock. Those were leftists. Those were the left wing. Those were the liberals. Was F the government that whole concert. Okay. And I've never been a Democrat. I've never been a leftist at all. But the left used to do the old, man, you do you do me, and F the government. And then the conservatives and Republicans were always we must support the government. And we must follow all the rules of the government regardless. Now it's almost like opposite. Or at least that's how I look at it. But then again, I'm not a Republican either, though. I just love the Constitution. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a libertarian, and I'm not in the Green Party. It's just I'm just tired of parties and tired of factions, and it just seems like everyone's just getting played to one extent or another. Just some sides play you worse than the other, right? It's really frustrating and it's really sad. But people like my friend Flying Rich, conservative man, he's gonna say, look, as much as I don't like what you're doing, I still respect your free speech that I disagree with. Why can't the other side sit there and say, as much as I don't like the AR or the AK or the whatever it is, as much as I don't like, I support your Second Amendment protected right to still own it. Now, my friend Rich is not going to burn his flag. Right, Rich? Rich is not going to burn his flag. But he supports somebody else's right. Why can't the other side say, I won't own an AR, but I'll still defend the right for Rich to own one? These people are hypocrites. These people hate the United States of America at this point. I don't even know how we can call them Democrats. We need to stop calling them Democrats at this point. If you look at the Democrat Party's platform and these people that are on the top of the ticket, these are radical leftists. These are literally communists and Marxists. These are people who support a totalitarian oligarchy. Literally. Look, they just wash all their money through the NGOs, through the corporations. There's more military industrial complex players than you could even think of. And there's more different, you fill in the blank, ... industrial complexes than we could mention in 4 hours here. Almost every business there is, big business. I don't mean your small business. My small business isn't this way, and I'm sure where you work probably isn't. Maybe it is. I don't know. Hope it's not. But pretty much no matter where you turn in any industry, it's the tail wagging the dog. It's the lobbyist. The lobbyist, the government circle of money, right? You've got the NGO. Okay, you've got the government man. Just goes in circle after circle after circle. And my only conclusion is these people hate all of us. What's up, Misty Mrs. Wayne? Nice to see you. What's up, Kurt24? Ross 77? Harry Gremley? How you doing, Harry? Tim Cullen, you nailed it, my man, right there. The left always escalates. Today it's burning the flag, tomorrow it's a city. Look, this Tim AWOLs, his wife, said she enjoyed smelling the burning tires and cars when they set the whole city on fire right by the governor's mansion. I agree, QD. Yes, that's why, like I said, I love the First Amendment, but I like the Second Amendment just a little bit more. You know what I mean? Just a little bit more. What's happening, Josh Powell? Nice to see you. Yeah, Sean Zimmerman, we agree. Everything's words without the two-way. Look, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Chairman Mao. How many people did he kill? Nobody will never know. You'll never, ever know because so much of it was covered up. It's 100 to hundreds of millions of people. The Great Leap Forward. The Color Revolution. Cultural revolutions. And he said, look, this is one of the most evil people, like, of all time. But he said something that's 100% correct. He said all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And he's correct. And that's why they want your guns. And today it's burning a flag. Tomorrow it's burning a city. I get it. I get it. I just wish there was a darn party out there. And look, the Founding Fathers, this isn't just me. The Founding Fathers warned us of political parties. Our first president, George Washington, former General President George Washington, right? The way he crossed the Delaware was mighty heroic, like a little bit more than that even. After running, he didn't seek re-election. He said, I've done it. I'm going back home. And then he renounced secret societies and political parties and all of it. Thomas Jefferson writes the Tree of Liberty letter just within a decade of the founding of the country. So there were people frustrated with political parties and frustrated that it didn't seem like anyone cared about the Constitution. Essentially right after it was written, actually. So I guess it's just like the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun, right? All right, well, nice to see you, everybody. What's up, Anne-Marie? And as I told you guys earlier, Ego Riser, nice to see you. Marco Polo, what's happening, man? How you doing, Josh Powell? What's happening? I am going to end this stream in 1 second. What's happening, Iron Horseman? Nice to see you. Okay, a lot of you guys are saying you don't like the flag being burned, but there shouldn't be a law against it. Yeah, I don't think anyone even needs my opinion on whether I think. I just wanted to throw it out there. One of the presidential candidates is saying mandatory 1 year in prison if you burn your flag. It's getting tough. All right, Kent just left a generous super chat. Thanks, Kent. He's 762. 762 by 39. Is that all right with you? He says our government has been bought and paid for. Yes, sir. The money brings the power, but God brings the judgment. We have to fight for what's right. Yes, sir. And that does offer me a lot of encouragement. And I do appreciate that. Good night, Zanty Misfit, and good night, all of you, except for the ones that have already signed up to be a member on my locals or a supporter if you've got an extra couple bucks. Or you guys can follow me on Rumble. Tomorrow night, the stream's just going to be on locals, though, okay? That's why I'm saying you might want to sign up for both if you haven't yet. And I will see you guys over on censorship-free platforms because, dude, I have like a Russian clash. Like, so far away, YouTube. Susan WikiWiki, she died, but her ghost is still watching the channel. It's so far away, I could never touch it. I can't even see it right now. Look, this is how you have to say this. It's not 6 feet away, and I can't see it right now. But on Rumble and Locals, I can literally touch guns, and I will be in just a little bit. Ooh, people elected him to advance his agenda. Andrew Jackson first politicized the presidency. I will look into that, and thank you for telling me about that. Nice seeing you, Midwest Logger. Mike McClune, what's happening, Mike? Nice to see you. And it's 11:11 as you say her goes. All right, I am out of here, and I am going to jump over to Locals and Rumble, and you take it easy, Sean Zimmerman. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. He says he can hardly eat. I get it. I get it, dude. It's bad out there right now. It's really, really bad out there right now. And I do believe Kamala will be worse than the current former vice president in so many ways. Trust me. All right. I will see some of you guys in a few minutes. I will see Wolf, and all of the rest of you where I can touch guns. And if not, I will see you guys here next Friday night on YouTube. Thanks for all of you who supported here and all of you that support in so many other ways. Let the man go to locals, QD says. Yeah, I'm going to be over there because I like that Russian Kalash over there is pretty cool. All right, I will see all of you guys soon. And the 2A rally in Michigan, check out my YouTube community post. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.